Do you guys have any like future plans beyond the documentary right now to continue this kind of quest and crusade, or are you just solely focused right now on that?
I mean, as far as the documentary goes, obviously we would love the film to explode and get everywhere as possible. Like right now we've our film was pitched to Netflix and Hulu. We haven't heard anything definitive there yet,
Mm,
but obviously that would be a really big platform.
yeah.
But as far as the documentary, like it's just a tool. Like we made it as a tool, and we're still kind of working in this area. We obviously when a film comes out, you have a really big push, and then it kind of slowly tapers off. And so now we're just kind of in this coast mode with the film, and we'll have little upticks here and there where it'll get promoted somewhere, and we'll have a big uptick, and want to continue to push those. But we're kind of looking now is like, one, how can we start to get the film in front of people that wouldn't probably pay for it to see it? That's kind of our next thought. Like, how do we get, school systems to show our film to families, or how do we get like, community centers to
Yeah.
show our film? And then on top of that, we're working, we're in contact with a lot of senators and delegates and stuff in different states.
We're pretty
Really,
laser focused on dyes right
we're
now.
really excited to see what happens in West Virginia. There's a bill that's going to about to be on the table in West Virginia that's going to look to ban dyes statewide. Well, like I don't know how that'll actually happen, but that would be pretty interesting if a state completely banned dyes. Like how is the food system going to work around that? Especially if we could get something like that to happen in California, that's such a big state. Like that's what I was saying on state level. The more and more of these states that put bills in the legislation and make laws, like eventually, whether the FDA does something or not, they're going to have to make a shift. You can't
They're going to have to address it
can't have
at a federal
you can't have
level.
two or three different versions of your product floating around the country, and that's a nightmare with shipping and selling and all that sort of stuff. So that's why I think the state level is the focus right now, getting states to put bills on the table, and eventually I think enough states do things, then maybe the FDA starts looking into it and doing things like on a more federal level. So
We are open to another documentary maybe later on down the road. I don't know that we will be using our savings to fund as much as we did this time, but yeah, we're open to it.
No, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there after seeing this, especially that'll be open to, funding this and continuing on. Again, it's such a, it's something everyone could support or should. I
mhm.
can understand that it's easy to buy cheaper food and it's quicker, but again, you have to look at what about children's health in this all? Can we spend just a little bit more, or at least subsidize even those portions, make the companies take out of their profits a little bit for that and start to put this in. So
Yeah.
what are your like kind of hopes in the next, let's say, few months for what you'd like to see happen, after this gets out and starts to build up?
For me, I would really like to, start a new conversation and build upon we vote with our dollars, and we agree
Mm,
with that. We do need to do that. But there's also this group and this population that are very low income that can't do that, that don't
hmm.
have the same access. That I taught in an inner city school, and some of the families that I taught were they didn't speak English, and then I had a few families that were illiterate, and that's not the same. They have more barriers than I have. They're
Yeah.
not going to be driving 20 minutes to Trader Joe's. And I had children that took taxis to school. Taxis are very expensive, and they're not going to drive a taxi to Trader Joe's to get dye-free candy. They're going to try to stay as close as possible. They're probably going to be walking to a convenience store. And so the reality is we have to accept, and we have to be thinking that we have to agree that those children are just as important as our children. And we have to prioritize that. And all food should be safe. All children should be protected. And I like the idea of giving people choice, of course. But when we're talking about kids, when
Mhm.
synthetic dyes are oftentimes used to make ultra processed, unhealthy foods marketable to kids, that's an issue. And so we really need to be thinking about that, and if that's okay. And if it's not okay, then we need to be addressing it. So I would really like to shift the conversation away from just let's be healthy, let's buy dye-free foods, to we really need to be protecting children as a whole, especially children that have so much stacked against them. Synthetic dyes, of course, aren't going to solve all the behavioral problems and all the neurologic problems in the world, but it's a really great place to start. And it's a really great conversation to be had. And maybe it's the beginning of looking at lots of chemicals and making sure that our food is safe in general. And we do hope that it continues even beyond dyes, although we are really laser focused on dyes. The reason why that is if you were to, put your tentacles in lots of different areas, you're really probably not going to make progress in terms of policy. And so we're really trying our best to make as much movement in this area as possible. And then hopefully we can move on to whatever is next and tackle the next issue. But that's our passion. Well, I mean, in addition to this, we've been working our regular day jobs. It would be hopefully this turns into something we can do more permanently.
And that's the thing, isn't it, Brennan, that this is really a low-hanging fruit in that it's a cosmetic additive. It's not necessary at all.
Exactly. I think, there's a lot of additives in our food that may have an opposing argument when people, start trying to come for them and take them out of food. If it's a preservative, there's an argument that it makes the food last longer. If it's a flavor enhancer, you have that. If it's an artificial sweetener, you have it does make things sweet without having so much sugar. There's lots of issues with artificial sweeteners and stuff too. But when it comes to dyes, they are literally just cosmetic. There's no other argument other than like we were talking about earlier about how it might extend the shelf life of the look of it, but it's not an actual preservative. It's just the color will last longer. So like that's kind of why we feel like dyes, aside from it being such a huge part of our story, is such a great starting point for getting additives removed from our food system, because it is there's not a big argument on the opposite side of it for why we should have them, aside from the cosmetic.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, so much of what you guys have talked about, put forward in this documentary, really opens our eyes as to why are we doing this? If it's the children, even are at risk, at 1% of children, 0.1%, then why are we doing this if we have alternatives? Exactly. If we could use natural things, pay a little bit more, even just to label it where it's more in your face that this contains a synthetic dye, just as we've done with so many other things out there, that alone would be a step in the right direction. So I'm really hoping that this documentary moves the trajectory of all of this in that way, where we start making, and I think, you can't say it's done that for Red Number 3, but I think that's just the start, and things like this documentary will keep it going.